And hello and welcome back to all of our followers who have followed us during these first round of the playoffs. Thank you for all of those people who have joined us in our post-game recaps after each Leafs and Habs game. This show right here is not live, but we are going to take care of a lot of the questions that you guys posted to our Instagram, so we appreciate that, the people that did send those in. This is another post-mortem show, our annual post-mortem show of the Leafs. This happens every year, and it seems like it's going to keep happening every year. We could probably just recycle this recording next year and the year after. I mean, who knows? But we hope while listening to this, it could be a little bit cathartic. It could be a little bit of healing that will come your way. And hopefully it'll be a kickoff to your summer that you can go and enjoy the rest of your summer and not worry about these guys who, quite frankly, don't deserve your attention and worries and minds and thoughts. So welcome to our postmortem of Not Another Puck and Sports Pod, where puckin's in the name, but puckin's not all we do. We talk about other sports, but I know you guys follow us for the hockey, so specifically the Leaf stuff, and here we go. Before we begin here, I want to kick it back 5 years ago. 5 years ago, the Leafs were an upstart team with a bunch of hotshot rookies who did the unthinkable. They made the playoffs after a year in which they finished in last place. They took on the President's Trophy winning Washington Capitals, took them to 6 games. 3 of those games went to overtime. And after that series, I remember being so proud of the team, saying and thinking, you know what? We've only got good years ahead of us. We are going in the right direction. I am so excited for the future. If you would have told Joe Choffs then 5 years ago that 5 years down the road, you'd be in the exact same position, not even being able to win a playoff round, I would have said, you're absolutely out of your damn mind. You're crazy. But here we are yet again, another epic collapse. And this one here is the worst one yet. Don't even get it confused. Yeah, there was 4-1 against Boston. But let's face it, that team wasn't any good. They didn't deserve to be up 4-1. And that was probably a good thing that they ended up losing that game, because without that, they probably don't end up with Matthews and Marner and Nylander and all that. Now, why was this the worst? Well, obviously, they lost to their arch rival, the Montreal Canadiens, the absolute worst team to lose to. They were up 3-1. And I think the worst part for me, anyways, is that this was the year that they had the absolute easiest path to the semifinals. Never again will this team have an easier path. Next year, it's back to the Atlantic, where they got to compete with Tampa, Boston, Florida, Montreal, Ottawa, who's going to be much better. Just to get out of that division is going to be tough. Just to get to the semifinals is going to be one of the biggest mountains to climb. So they blew such a huge opportunity. Not once after Game 4 did this team have a lead. Think about that. Not once did they have a lead after Game 4. This allowed the Habs to take a page out of the Jackets and Torts playbook, sit back, clog the middle, wait for mistakes, and know that your goalie's going to shut the door. If the Leafs actually came out and played with their hair on fire once and taken a lead, who knows what would have happened. Then Montreal has to open up the game. So much could have went differently. I mean, the JT injury, the Muzzin injury, a lot went Montreal's way. But the Leafs were supposed to be different this year. They were supposed to be deep enough to withstand things like that. Anyways, that's my little spiel to open it up. I'm still a little bit ticked off, as I'm sure you are. I want to kick it to the boys to get their thoughts. Frankie, you're the Leaf fan. Robbie is not. We don't know what kind of fan Rob is, but we'll kick it to you first, and I want to hear your thoughts as you've had 24 hours to let it marinate here.
Marinate. Kind of hungry now. Sounds like a Black Angus steak. Yeah, trying to take the emotion out of it. It's funny when we were talking yesterday. I think the first thing we all said is you kind of prepared yourself for this. It's almost like you prepared for the inevitable. It's like you're at peace with it because you kind of knew it was coming, right? So I think this is a little easier this year, knowing that it was coming. It's just what makes it harder is the team that it was, and I think we've all come on here for the last couple weeks of stating how hard it was, just knowing that it's Montreal. And the amount of friends we have and family that like Montreal, which makes it even worse. And stay off Twitter because that's just a cesspool right now. But other than that, though, it's like I listen. I'll admit I drank the Kool-Aid. Right. I kind of took this team for what it was worth and what it stood for, what they wanted to do. And there's still a part of me that kind of wants to see it work because you're looking teams like Tampa and Colorado, and they're kind of using the same model. But for me, Joe, just to not really beat a dead horse and kind of go over the things that you already mentioned. For me, like I gave this team the benefit of the doubt, and maybe it's still emotion speaking, but it's obvious that this style isn't working when it matters most. And for me, being a coach, understand that playoffs in any level, it's a time where players themselves become desperate to win. You want to see urgency, you want to see desperation, and they do things that they aren't willing to do over the course of an 82 game season. Blocking shots and playing hurt and just the little things that you notice that guys rally around. And that's why the game changes. Players who aren't interested and willing to battle hard suddenly they dig in more, and that really nullifies the pure offensive part of the game. And I think that's what really Montreal did to Toronto. They neutralized them. And I even take it back to McDavid, just to take it away from the Leafs for a second. Look at McDavid, the best player in the world. It's not that he didn't play well or compete hard. It's just he was doing all that he could. And the truth of the matter is that the other team was really, Winnipeg was willing to pay the price. And so was Montreal. They back-checked. They played a hard, focused, determined game all the time. So, McDavid, even the goals that he scored were none of those freewheeling type of goals that he's used to. And same with Matthews and Marner. They weren't the same type. They weren't allowed that same freedom that the regular season allowed. And I understood that now, again, seeing it and letting it sink in, that it's the same thing with Toronto. Like, you can't say that the top players were lazy. Yeah, they played well defensively. They were engaged on the defensive side. They wanted it, but the other team just dug in a little harder, and Montreal, just like I said, neutralized that offense, and that skill advantage that the Leafs had really went away. And when Tavares goes down and Muzzin goes down and your top players don't do anything, they're just as on the same level of Montreal, if not lower. And I think Montreal had the better team when the Stars didn't come to play. So that's kind of my perspective so far.
Isn't it kind of interesting that a lot of Leaf fans have said we knew they were going to lose in Game 7? Do you think that at some point, like, if you tell someone something enough, they're going to believe it? If you keep telling these kids, and they are kids, the curse of the Leafs, even though we know the Leafs they were a poorly run franchise. I sorry to be like the bearer of bad news, but for 10 years this team was a disaster. They were the Cleveland Browns. I can't even call them the Cleveland Browns anymore because Cleveland won this year. They have now moved on to the Dallas Cowboys. It's actually it's a perfect reference. But do you think that at some point the media constantly and the fans constantly saying we're cursed, you guys can't win? Do you not think this is going to catch up to these guys at some point? Like, do you think that had an effect on these guys? If you tell someone something long enough, they're going to believe it.
Don't you got to battle through that? Like,
yeah,
you got to block out the outside noise. You got to, and curses are meant to be broken. The Rangers curse was broken. The Red Sox curse was broken. Heck, even the Cubs curse was broken. Right? They're meant to be broken. You got to fight through that stuff, and don't even listen to that crap. So I don't buy that at all, to be honest. We can think it as fans, as players. You can't think like that. No way.
I'll agree to the point where it does take a special player, not just to play in the city, but to thrive. And how to block out the media, how to block out social media, the radio, podcasts like ours. It's trying to block out all the noise and play. And listen, we've never been in that situation before, so it's hard for us to comment because we're on the other side. But at some point, you got to look at this team and say to yourself, you got to cut bait. Like, if you can't play in this market and this pressure, don't let it linger. Don't let it linger. Like, I know we're going to talk about it later on about guys who are here and who are not, but it doesn't get any better. If we thought last year when Marner came out and said, well, I should have tried harder or something like that, or, I should have been ready to play. What did we all do? Game 1 of the regular, we're watching that guy with a microscope. And if he thinks it's going to get even easier, at some point, we have to start looking at this team and say, okay, this guy cut bait, and bring in a whole load of guys who think you can play in this market. Like Montreal had a guy in Josh Anderson. I wish he was a Leaf. That's the type of personality that I'm not saying going to make the difference, but we're so used to Gary Roberts, we're so used to Wendell Clark, Ty Domi. That's not there anymore. But I think that personality is something that this team is definitely lacking.
But see, and I hate to be the Barry Horowitz, give myself the pat on the back, but like I told you guys last year, you guys laughed at me. I get scoffed at a lot because my theories are all out there. But I said at the press conference last year, I said I hated the body language of Marner and Matthews, and I heard, well, it's just a press conference. No, it told me that this was a mental weakness thing. That after a loss, they're slouching, they're hunching. And that maybe this team was just well, I know they're not mentally tough. And if you tell someone who's not mentally tough, like if you tell a kid over and over he's bad at something, he's going to eventually be bad at it. It takes a special person to get over constantly being told something. So it's great to play in big markets, but at some point it's not for everybody. Like it can wear on some people for sure. I am a Canucks fan, and I made some parallels to 2011. The Canucks that year, and it obviously it didn't work out for the Leafs. But the Canucks almost blew a 3-0 lead. The thing about the Canucks, though, was that year in Game 6 and Game 7, they played fantastic. Game 7, they absolutely steamrolled the Chicago Blackhawks. It should have been a close game. It was, unfortunately. But they showed the fight that I could go out and say, even if they lose, they fought. The Leafs, I didn't get that. As a Leaf fan, right? You feel kind of like it just unsatisfied. I think that's probably the perfect word. So I have a real question and a real issue with a lot of people, and Mitch Marner's doing this, is that he's saying, me and Austin have to be better. If I'm Austin Matthews, I got a little bit of a problem with being lumped in with Mitch of almost like, misery loves company. Listen, Austin didn't have the greatest series. He had some good games, but this dude's had some good playoffs. Last year, he was the best player in the playoffs, or in the series against Columbus. Yep. The year before, he was pretty good. Washington, he was great that first year. Why is this guy getting lumped in with Marner? I know Marner kind of wants some company, but for me, this is more on Mitch and, the fact that he wanted $11 million. And dude, like everybody's going to jump on Austin Matthews. I get it. He's the best player. You wanted him to be a little bit better, but man, like the guy's been great. Like I can give him a pass.
Yeah, Matthews, he wasn't his best, but I still think he was good. He was physical. He was engaged. He threw his body around. He didn't shy away from physical competition. Whereas Marner, by the end of the series, was like looking to get rid of the puck and not making a play and scared to get hit and shying away from the physicalness. And that's what drives you nuts. It's like he was a complete shell of his former self when it came to the playoffs, especially in Game 7. I couldn't even stand looking at him in Game 7, watching him on the ice. It was tough to watch. I almost felt bad for him in a way, because you're looking at a guy who got the weight of the world on his shoulders and has no more confidence in himself. And this is where I have an issue with the coaching, is that how do you not see that and try to make a change in some way? Maybe try and get him out there against lesser competition to get his confidence back up. Nylander's playing way better. Why not? Anyways, I'm going to get to this when we get to our Who to Blame segment, but yeah. Keep going, Rob.
Just one thing on that. Other than you can't look at him because that mullet was god awful. I don't know what he was thinking on that one, but Jesus. Rob, I'm glad you brought that up because that really bothered me. I tweeted out about it. It's like, Austin and I, excuse me, sir, but who gave you the permission, if I'm Austin Matthews, to say, buddy, leave my name out of your press conferences, okay? Because, buddy, I don't know what game you were watching, but you and I are a little different at this.
This is the problem with him, though. He thinks he's at that level. Even the contract negotiations.
Exactly.
He's like, I'm at Austin's level. I need to be paid like Austin.
I was just gonna say that.
You're not.
You're not at that level, pal. And it's almost like you can't get him out of that trance. You know what I mean? You can't get him out of that mindset. You can't take people down with you. And I think It's funny because I didn't want to go in a different direction, but people were saying about how sad it is that some fans were leaving pretty disgusting remarks in Marner's Instagram and stuff, which is not cool. At the end of the day,
No,
it's
I
like it's not a
totally.
personal attack, right?
That is
Yeah.
stupid.
But
Stupid.
but
Yes.
I will tell you one thing though, the difference between fans doing that and somebody like Jack Campbell who came out and said, "Listen, who we all know who was fantastic in the series, okay?" And he came out and said, "Listen, that was the worst goal I've ever let in my career, and I've got to be better. I'm gonna be better, and I'll be." He always takes the blame, even if he took the blame for a 2-0 goal in overtime. Said he should have had it. Somebody took a snapshot of his Instagram of people leaving comments. Not one negative comment, unless it was a Montreal fan, but it all said, "Jack, we love you. Jack, oh my God, you're too hard on yourself. Jack, you're our guy." He took ownership when he didn't have to. And it's a guy like that, it's a personality like that, where the city starts to fall in love with a character like that. It's almost like Reimer 2.0. You know what I mean? It's that lovable character, but somebody who the city can rally around. If Marner's not going to take ownership of himself with that, he's just drawing more criticism, and this crap like this doesn't make it any easier for the guy to come back. So I just want to kind of show the difference between the two, not from a money standpoint, just from character aside. I didn't like it either, Robbie.
Yeah, it wasn't. It kind of rubbed me the wrong way. But this all comes back to, listen, this team could all, the way they lost, it wasn't ideal. But teams 3-1 leads go easily. It wasn't how they lost; it was who they lost to. Let's call a spade a spade. That makes this even worse. I mean, if this was Vancouver, Calgary, Edmonton, Winnipeg, even Ottawa, the Leafs lose this series, you can go, man, we really let one go, but you can get over it. I don't know if you get over this one just because of that team. And it especially hurt that I'm going to bang on them in a minute. That wasn't a good team in Montreal. I mean, they've been propped up now. Now the narrative has changed again for the third time in less than 6 weeks. The narrative's changed, but I'm a Yankees fan, and 2004, we all know that the 3-0 collapse. It wasn't that they blew a 3-0 lead, because that was going to hurt regardless. It hurt down to the core that it was the Red Sox. Like, you never want it to be that arch rival that just kills you. And it's that it was Montreal. And me and Joe in one of the pods said, I think you'd rather play Winnipeg. And this was why. Like, this is going to set this was the worst moment in the franchise of our lifetime.
This is going back to this is Ballard embarrassing. Like, it's on that same level.
Yeah, see, everybody thinks the two scariest word for the Leafs are Game 7. It's actually Harold Ballard, and they tie in together. Is that this was the worst moment since that era? So this is devastating. I don't know how you get over this as a Leaf fan.
If people our age don't really understand how bad Harold Ballard was, let me give you an idea of how bad he was. Harold Ballard used to what he tried to do was he tried to put so if the Leafs were wearing home white, he would actually put the players' last names in white lettering on the white jersey, so they were forced to buy programs to look up the players' names and the thing. And he also used to stop the the water fountains from working at Maple Leaf Gardens. So all the food and pretzels and stuff that people would buy, they would have to buy drinks. That's the type of prick that they were dealing with. But that's what we're talking about, the same level of embarrassment that this Leafs team is now on. So just want to give you some context there.
So he made the Oakland A's look like the New York Yankees, basically.
Yeah, or the Cincinnati Reds with Mark Schott.
If you want, just Google Harold Ballard sexist, man. He said a really bad thing about And listen, I know.
We're not going to discuss it. Let's get it back on the rail. So,
okay,
who's to blame for this collapse? Let's kick it to that, because that's the big question that everybody's pandering over today, especially. Is it the players? Is it the coaches? Is it management? I know James Murrell put up a poll yesterday. The options were players, coaches, management, God. I know God came in second place, but players was number one. What do you guys think? because it's definitely 16 and 34 got to wear it for me. Absolutely, they're paid the most. They didn't produce. Bottom line, they didn't produce, and they have to wear it the most. But the more I've been thinking about it, the more I'm upset with the coaching staff. And all year, people have been arguing, can we please see Matthews with Nylander? They had a comfortable lead in the standings. They could have tinkered. He tinkers a lot, Sheldon Keefe. I give him credit, but he never tinkered with that. The last 29 games of the regular season, their power play had a differential of 0. They scored 5 power play goals. They allowed 5 shorthanded goals. With a power play of Marner, Matthews on it, Reilly, are you kidding me? That is pathetic. And they never found an answer to that. And Frankie, I'll give you credit. You said the problem is Marner. He's not a shooting threat. And teams know if you're not going to, if he can't shoot it and Reilly can't shoot it, they're going to try to always funnel it to Matthews. And teams just took away that option and said, here, Mitch, take a shot, see what happens. Yeah. And according to Ian Tulloch, they wanted to move Mitch off the half wall and move him more down low, and he refused to do so. Yeah. And if that really did happen, that is ridiculous, and even more argument as to why you either have to have a conversation with this guy in the offseason and say, this is going to be different this year. It's our way or the highway. And if you don't like it, then send them on the highway.
Yeah.
Why did it take till Game 7 to put William Nylander on the power play? I don't understand it.
Desperation.
If the fans, if we know it, why don't they know it? Anyways, so I think the coaching staff has to wear it. Manny Malhotra, if you're in charge of the power play, you got to wear it. Keefe's got to wear it especially as well.
Yeah.
Joe Thornton was on the power play up until Game 7, and he was doing absolutely nothing. So I'll let you guys go for it. Who do you put the most blame on?
Yeah, again, without being a dead horse, so I think we can all come to a consensus that 16 and 34 got to wear the most of it. Unacceptable to have 5 even strength points in 18 career playoff games and all of them assists. For Marner, it's like, okay, it is what it is, right? But and at the same time, too, Joe, I'm gonna piggyback on your Keefe thing because I don't think he's a bad coach. He's a player's coach.
I don't think so either. I think he did a great job.
I think so too. But I think I heard on the radio today. I think it was Justin Bourne who used to work for the Leafs in a video consulting role, I believe. He used to work directly under Keefe with the Marlies, and the way how Keefe operates with the power play with the Marlies was when it wasn't going well, and I believe AJ McLean was running the power play for the Marlies. When it wasn't going well, Keefe would interject himself into the power play and kind of make it his own, which leads me to believe if Malhotra, who, Rob, you probably would help me more, Malhotra was never a power play specialist to begin with, so I had a little bit of issue with that. But
did he not run the Canucks power play last year? No, he didn't?
He wasn't even on the bench. I don't even know if he was running the power play, but if Keefe interjected himself, which kind of all signs are pointing to, especially if Justin Bourne gave the inside track there, he now has to take that burden more than Malhotra does, because I don't think we can go through another one of these summers where, McFarland was let go last year. Now they bring in Malhotra. Hackstall is still there. And I thought the penalty kill is actually a pretty decent penalty kill this year. But now does he take the blame, adding another assistant coach to take the fall for it? Paul McLean, I bet you a lot of people didn't realize he was on the staff as well this year. Does he take the fall for it? If Keefe interjects himself, he has to take more of it than any of those 3 assistant coaches do, because it actually didn't get better with Keefe taking control. It got worse because you said they let 5 shorthanded goals go as well. It's the stubbornness that we gave. I think you made the point, Joe. It's the stubbornness that we gave Babcock shit for, about always sticking to the lines of Marleau on the first line. But because it was Mike Babcock, he had the I don't care attitude. I actually wish Keefe had a little bit of that, to say I don't care, or else we would give the guy a little bit more, kind of
he's giving the players too much say, and at least that's what it seems like.
But
it cost them the series. The power play cost them the series, because if their power play was lethal, Montreal would not be able to play like they did, because then they'd be scared of that power play and they have to totally change their game. It completely screwed them. So he's got to wear it.
Yep, I agree. I agree. I don't. That's pretty much where I'll end it there. I don't think Dubas takes any blame. I think he gets a free pass because, you know, he did what he had to do at the deadline. And you saw my checklist. I didn't think he was going to do it all, but he brought it all in with the assets where he didn't think, you know, he didn't take any players off this roster. You know what I mean? So you can't, you know, we wanted to go get somebody. He got him. He got Foligno. He got the backup in Riddick because we didn't know about Anderson. He did what he had to do. He brought in Simmons. He brought in Thornton. Oh, we got a culture change.
Brody was an excellent signing.
Excellent signing. You know, we talked about, I just said, the culture change of Thornton and Simmons. We knew kind of the ending, you know, maybe a little worse for Thornton. But, you know, one thing I give Dubas credit for is he used it as a learning experience last year. He adjusted his game plan because it was supposed to be all skill, all of that. And now we're sitting here saying that the bottom six or the bottom three were not fast enough. You know what I mean?
So that's a good point because I wanted to get to that because
yeah, that's fine.
We had a question that said, should Dubas have the opportunity to make changes or should his replacement have that task? That's assuming that he's on the chopping block. I don't think he is yet because like you said, he pretty much checked off all the boxes that he needed to do. Their defense, they gave up the 6th least amount of goals in the league. Like, the Leafs haven't done that in decades. He did a lot of good things. After the Columbus series, everyone said they need to get tougher. They need more grit. They need more experience. He checked off all those boxes. At the deadline, we need another player like Hyman. He goes out and gets Foligno. Probably paid way too much for him. In hindsight, definitely he did. My thing is this. We all know that Dubas's mantra is skill and speed. The old saying, if you start listening to the fans, you're going to have a seat beside them soon. Did Dubas listen too much to that notion? Because he went away from that mantra of skill and speed. Listen, I know another team that is all about skill and speed, the Colorado Avalanche, and they look damn good right now and unstoppable. Grit is great. You need grit. Absolutely, you need grit. But grit has to be able to play, too. Yeah. You need a Brendan Gallagher. You need Zach Hyman. Thornton couldn't play anymore. Simmons showed it in spurts, but wasn't consistent. So, yes, you need a little bit of everything, but he really went away from his mantra. And it goes back to a lot of people didn't want them to get Hall. Listen, they could not carry the puck through the neutral zone in this series. A couple guys did it. Nylander, Kerfoot, Reilly. If you get Hall in there, maybe he's another guy that's able to do that. So, and another thing, I heard one thing from Pierre LeBrun in The Athletic. He interviewed a lot of executives around the league, and one executive said they need to get away from analytics. Listen, please show me an analytics person who would have argued for them to sign Thornton, Simmons, Bogosian. These guys are not analytical darlings. Foligno. That is not an analytics choice, those. Okay? You know who listens to analytics? Colorado, Carolina, Vegas. So please get that notion out of your head. Maybe they need to listen to it a little bit more. And I know, Bobby, you hate analytics, but I'm telling you, they maybe went the other way too much.
No, I disagree. I disagree. Balance is the key to life. And I hated the Thornton signing. I said it on our Instagram live yesterday. It made no sense to me. Everybody was so excited. I didn't want to burst anybody's bubble, but it was a terrible signing. I mean, he was a notorious underachiever in the playoffs, and we knew this team was going to be judged on the regular season. They could have gone 56-0. Nobody cared. Nobody cared. For me, the biggest blame, because I didn't get a chance to answer, I go with Keith as well. I don't know why he didn't go with Nylander on the first line. I've been saying it for 3 days. That was for me the biggest thing, is that he was the best player in the series. It bothers me, like I'm like twitching a little bit saying it, but Nylander was the best player on the team. Like playing with Marner, playing with Matthews, or at least playing with Matthews. At least I feel like they needed help,
and Marner was not giving him the help that he needed.
And everybody that's saying Austin Matthews played really bad in Game 7, I think he set 3 guys. Like he set Hyman up 3 times in the slot with like A1 premium chances. So everybody that's like they were keying in on Matthews. You needed help. And if that puck, think about this. I believe it was 0-0, or it might have been 1-0 Montreal. Imagine William Nylander with that puck where Zach Hyman got it 3 times. I guarantee
going in
you,
at least once. At least once it's going in. Come on.
once. So, I mean, Nylander, he scored on the power play from where? Where Hyman had the puck 3 times. So everybody that's banging on Matthews, 16, I think he needs to wear it. But it's for me, Keith and Shanahan and Dubas get a total pass because again they did a pretty good job. I didn't like the Thornton signing, but I like the Simmons. I like Simmons. I wish he had done more in the playoffs. I think he's kind of getting a little bit of a pass, but I thought he could have done more. But I said something really controversial that I don't think people understood. Austin Matthews is so great that he's almost hurting this power play. People didn't understand what I was saying. I didn't say he isn't amazing. He's the best. He might be the best goal scorer in the league. But it's almost like at times Marner wants to force feed him. It's like if you've ever played with a great player. I've been on the ice with an NHL player. And when you play with those guys, all you do is force feed them the puck. You try to get him the puck when you shouldn't. And it looks like that's what they're doing with Matthews, is that it's the same thing over and over. When he was out of before you go, when he was out of the lineup, the power play looked more dynamic because they weren't running it all through him at that shooting spot.
Fair enough, but why then does it work for Washington? They've been doing it for 15 years and it hasn't changed, and everybody knows what's going to happen, and it works.
Everybody's saying it works. It worked 1 year. Like this is a team that won 1 Stanley Cup in 15. It worked kind of.
They're always in the top 5 power play. And speaking of the power play, so this is like we go on like a little bit of a tangent here. If I was running the team, and shout out to my buddy Claude, who I talk to about the Leafs all the time. He brought up this point, and I agree with him. I would try to rebuild this power play next year. Dougie Hamilton's a free agent. He'd be the defenseman I'd be going after because he's got a bomb from the point. You put him at the point. You model it after the Tampa Bay Lightning power play. You get the bomb from the point. You put Matthews, Nylander on each side of that bomb from the point, and now you got 3 shooting options. Mitch, if you want to be on the power play, you're on the goal line, setting up plays from down low, and then you get a net front presence. That would be my thinking and the way that I would go. I don't know if they have the cap space for it. They might need to trade Mitch in order to swing that, but
and Morgan maybe too as well.
He's making 5.75 right now. He's at 27 years old. He's going to get at least 7.
Yeah.
Well,
which leads into Reilly. So what do you do with Reilly next year? Because he's going into the last year of his deal. I was a proponent of I think you should trade him this offseason because I didn't like his defensive game, but I will give the guy full props. I thought he was awesome this series. Awesome. So I don't know. I think you got to make the decision this year, though. If you're keeping him, you got to sign him. If you're not and you can't get a deal, just trade him now and get some assets. I'm tired of the, he's our own rental type deal, with JVR, and we lose these guys for nothing. Make that decision now if I'm the Leafs.
So with Reilly, that's a great question. By the way, a lot of these questions, I don't know, Joe, if you mentioned, they're a lot, coming from our followers and such. So we're taking a lot of questions here and kind of going through them. So thanks everybody who sent them in. I made the point yesterday with Reilly. I think, Rob, you may agree with me. I always like trading guys when their values are like me. If anybody in management would want to trade guys at their highest value. And I think Reilly had a great playoff. He had an awful regular season because he was getting caught on 2-on-1s. His decision making without the puck was awful, and TJ Brody was the safety net. But if I'm Dubas, that is the one hard decision that I'm making to show this team that we will trade. I consider him a part of the core. He was here for a while, and he's well loved in that dressing room. Let me tell you, he is the kind of the unsung leader in that room because he's been there the longest. But I would try to take advantage of a guy who is most likely not going to be re-signed because of the cap situation. It's almost like you're looking at, we have to make a choice here. It's either Hyman or Reilly. You know what I mean? Because if Hyman's going to get that bump in salary, it's like, what do you do, right? So if it was up to me, Joe, with the emergence of Sandin, I think even Rob called him an untouchable. I think you can afford the fact that you can deal Reilly. It's just, what do you get back in return that you can fill in the other part of your lineup? Are you getting prospects? Are you getting cap space? I know it's a discussion for another time, but long story short, I'm capitalizing on that on that return and making the deal at the draft. Yep.
Me as well. I would move on from Reilly. That's me. I think give Sandin a shot. He's a little small, but man, is he a great skater. And I mean, Riley's a lot thicker.
Player too. Yeah.
Yeah, he's really good. And you know, like when it comes to Swedish, I mean, the two words that work are massage and defenseman, because those like
and meatballs. Don't forget about meatballs.
Sorry. There's the third. So, I mean, Swedish defenseman. I just thinking of Nick Lidstrom makes me a little warm inside. So I would also move Reilly, but that is also predicated on the fact that you have to land a defenseman. Like, you almost have to be like, we got to trade for Seth Jones if you can, or
why trade for Seth Jones when you can sign Dougie Hamilton for free? It doesn't cost any assets.
That's
and
fine.
He's a better player.
I'm not going to go that far, but I'm going to say that's fine. If you want to sign,
he is better.
I disagree, but yeah, if you can sign him. You brought up Hyman. Did he lose money in this playoffs? I hate to go on a tangent here, but I thought that was the only good thing, is that I think he lost some money, man, because he looked awful.
He wasn't awful.
He wasn't awful. He wasn't awful. He just
that injury at the end of the year hurt him, man.
That could have, but he was on the ice more than the puck this series. Like that, whenever you looked over, he was on his ass. And also, speaking of Reilly, Matthew set him up too in the first period with a premium A1 chance.
You know what hurt? You know what hurt Hyman? And it's unfair. He's not a goal scorer.
Nope.
The guy has hands like feet, but he found himself in 20-goal seasons. He was again projected again to be another 20-goal scorer again this year. And what I mean by that is a lot of his goals come from 3-4 feet out. But you look at him as, he's a great forechecker. He creates turnovers and his back checking, his penalty killing. At the end of the day, you're actually relying on him on goals. And he came out with nothing. So I think that's why Rob's looking at him like, if you're counting on Zach Hyman to win you goal to get you goals, that's a very 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 deep hole you're putting yourself into. So that's not fair to him. But it's the way the team's constructed. And if he's not putting up the points either, maybe that's why you're kind of looking at it as, from Rob's standpoint, maybe he's losing money, which is probably good for the Leafs if they want to re-sign him.
Okay, he's not a goal scorer. I know he put up 20. No. One of the things that people don't talk about is in the regular season, there is no concentration on defense, especially at the beginning of the year. So the go-hards are going to score in the regular season. That's why in the playoffs he doesn't score ever, because everybody is focused. Everybody's trying. There's no shifts off. I noticed that. I mean, I can't tell you how many 2-on-1s the Leafs wasted this series.
Oh my god,
unbelievable! And it seems like they were getting tracked from behind. Kerfoot and Nylander on that one. It was like, you should have just dumped it in and let Nylander go get it. It was that bad.
Awful.
But it's just
on
like
one of them. They scored on one of them out of all of them.
Really? Even in the last game, they had a few, and it's like, how are they getting anyway? Off tangent. But a guy like Hyman, he's an energy guy. I like guys like that. But in the playoffs, notice that he doesn't score as much, and the playoffs is where he should make his money, because that's where the dirty, grimy, gritty goal. That's where Corey Perry scores it. But doesn't
maybe
score.
He shouldn't be on the first line then, right?
I think in the playoffs, and again, it should have been who up there in his.
Look
spot.
at Colorado's first line.
Oh.
Yeah.
McKinnon, Rantanen, Landeskog.
It's okay. It's decent.
Whoever it goes to has the ability to put the puck in the net, right?
And whoever gets it can give it to McKinnon.
Boston's first line, that line's never touched. They load it up, and yet they still do it.
Yeah,
right.
Tampa Bay's first line, like Kucherov, Point, and I can't remember the other name escapes me, but Palat. They put the puck in the net. It's like, come on, man.
So what are you willing to pay Zach Hyman then? Because I think we all agree we want to keep him. He brings to this team what they don't have enough of. So what is it? What's that number and how many years? Because the dude I think is like 28, 29, and the style he plays.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can I go first, Frank? Because I'm going to actually ask you. You know more. Is there anybody in the pipeline that looks like him? Because if you have somebody coming, I say you don't resign him. If he's all you got, your hands are almost tied. Now you would know more because you know the pipeline. Is there somebody coming that can fill this role?
You're reaching, man. You're reaching. You got guys like Nick Robertson who can skate, but is not more like a Hyman guy.
Yeah, I'm talking grinder.
Joey Anderson could be, but still I haven't seen it. The easy answer is no. No. You have some scorers,
They don't.
but no.
I think anything with a 4 in front of it now, it's a mistake. It's a huge mistake. I think it's got to be under 4. I hate to say it, and especially with a flat
That
cap.
ain't gonna happen, Rob. That ain't gonna happen. I know I love it, but
this is the problem with the top dogs taking the most money that they could. Is now you got Hyman, who's like, well, why the hell should I take less?
Right, exactly.
So the narrative right now is you take Anderson's money and you're giving it to Hyman. That's not what I'm just saying that's kind of the narrative. And if you want to keep the AAV down, you got to give him more years. It's a slippery slope. So you're probably, if I had to guess, you're probably looking at 5x5.
I think that's a bad deal. But why not offer him
long term? That might be too.
But you can also go to a guy like this and say, dude, you're a Toronto boy. Take a few bucks less. We're gonna have you in the Ring of Honor. You're gonna all the ex-Leafs. I don't understand this. All the ex-Leafs that live here get paid still. They're ambassadors.
Tucker, Corson,
Cujo,
Clark, Gilmore. They're all on the payroll still, right?
Who was the goalie that passed away a couple years ago? He was still getting paid. Johnny Bauer. Like, come on.
Plus the endorsements. You got fourth liners getting endorsements on this team. I don't get it.
Thank you. This is why I said I understand Marner or Matthews. I understand Tavares. He was a free agent. I understand Nylander. I never understood Marner. But that's on Dubas too, because Dubas should have pressed that button and said, "Hey, okay, go sign your offer sheet with Columbus. See how many endorsement deals you get there. Go for it." He was in a. I don't want to talk.
I know he was in a tough spot, but
yeah, okay. But anyway, Joe, would you re-sign Hyman? Like, what's your number?
I really want to re-sign him. I think I would go in the 4s, like the mid 4s, probably my highest I'd want to go. And the most amount of years I'd go is 5 years.
Okay.
But you got Hyman. He might say, I want the Josh Anderson deal. Right? Which is I'm sorry. I like Josh Anderson. That deal is ridiculous. That is going to be an anchor for that team in the last couple of years.
It's not good, but you also go to Hyman and say you couldn't tie Anderson's skates. Like, come on, brother. Like, Anderson is dynamic. I know no question it was a bad contract, but he is. If you told me Anderson or Hyman, I'd take Anderson 8 times.
He's in the wrong jersey. Let's put it that way.
He is a stud. Do we have any Montreal questions? Because I have been sitting here itching.
Okay, so I got a Montreal question for you. Do you actually? So we said how like in 2013 the Leafs losing that game actually ended up being a really good thing. Do you think that Montreal coming back and winning this series in the long run may actually hurt this franchise, because now Bergevin's going to get a couple more years. Ducharme's going to get an extra couple of years. They're going to stick with this core. They're going to stick with this way of big lumbering defensemen that can't move the puck. I don't know.
I said it. I said they were the big losers. I was laughed at, but this bought Bergevin another year, at least a year, maybe 2. I mean, you beat the Leafs. He's going to be a hero. And in 9 years, the best player he's accumulated is Nick Suzuki, that you're saying had a good season. I didn't notice Nick Suzuki. In fact, when we talked today in our group chat, and it was like, I couldn't figure out who the second best Hab forward was.
I couldn't figure out who the best forward was at all.
I mean,
no one stood out.
What did Caulfield have? Maybe 1 point, 2 points?
Something like that, yep.
This is my problem, is that 6 weeks ago, Montreal was fighting with a team that had COVID to make the playoffs. Like, Vancouver didn't play for 3 weeks, and they're like, Vancouver might catch Montreal. So they were awful. They shouldn't have been a playoff team. Then they make the playoffs, and they're like, okay, Montreal's a playoff team again. Then they play the first 4 games. They get absolutely steamrolled, and they're not a playoff team again. Now, in the last week, they become a playoff team again. And all the narrative is this team is built for the playoffs. A week ago, they weren't built for the playoffs. Now they're built for the playoffs.
Yeah, I know.
Oh, they're a good team. They deserve to be here. Everybody says game 6, they were the dominant team. Can I give you a stat that's going to blow your mind? Because it blew my mind. They dominated that game, correct? After the 10-minute mark of the first period, they were outshot 43-21. Say that out loud. A team that didn't advance outshot them 43-21 over the last 67 minutes, and that was their dominant game. This is the team that has a chance to represent this division. Saying Montreal won this series would be like saying the Washington football team won the NFC East. They did, but they really didn't. Like the Leafs gave this. Half of this is on the Leafs. Forget that. 80% of this is on the Leafs. Montreal didn't win this series because they played like crap. Like, sorry to all the Montreal fans that aren't going to listen to this, but it's driving me crazy that they played like crap and they're being hailed as heroes. Who was their second best? Tell me their good forwards that you noticed. Give me a stretch outside of Game 6, the first 10 minutes, where they have sustained pressure. Even in Game 7, they didn't have sustained pressure.
Never. Not once.
Never. How is this a good playoff team? It's boggling my mind. And if your argument is, well, we beat the Leafs, okay, if that's what you live for, forget you. Have it all day. Like, if your goal is to just beat the Leafs and not win a Stanley Cup, congratulations. But this is... But
that's what it is, because you talked to the one Habs fan that came on our live yesterday. He's like, I don't care if we get swept by the Jets. Like, we won the cup already.
And there you go. Okay, and you're not going to get any better because now you're going to sign some shit sandwich guys because you're going to say we don't have to rebuild. We're good where we are. It drives me nuts. It's driving me nuts. They are professional shit disturbers, this team. They get in this spot where they're underdogs. They were a favorite, I think, 1 or 2 years with Carey Price. What did they do? They took a dump in the first or second round. They took an absolute dump because they can't play as the hunter or the hunted.
You got to give them credit in that they're really good as the underdogs and playing the spoiler role, right?
I'm not going to give a team credit that probably shouldn't have been in the playoffs, that probably shouldn't have won a series, that last year was literally the 24th ranked team, had no business being in the playoffs. Why would I give a team like that credit? Why would I give a team that got outshot 43-21 in their best game over a 67-minute stretch? Why would I give them credit? I maybe you guys can defend them a little bit. I don't know. It's driving me nuts.
You think they're going to make the playoffs next year?
No.
Neither do I.
In fact, you know what? I said it from day one after watching the game 1 of this series, because I said the Leafs are going to represent this division in the North. After I watched game 1, I said it doesn't matter who goes. They are basically like a proxy. It's like we're just sending somebody to. It's like the NFC East. We're just sending somebody to send somebody.
We got to send somebody.
We have to send somebody. You know what I would do if I was the league? I would watch that Winnipeg-Montreal series. If it sucked, I'd say, you know what, Carolina, if you lose Tampa, we'll throw you back in. Well, it's like the Royal Rumble. Just throw them back somehow. Make them come out as a different character or something. Because the fact that Montreal might represent this division, you might have a Final Four of Colorado, Tampa, Boston, Montreal. Like,
what do you think Colorado would do to Montreal?
I don't even
eliminate him in 3.
Do you know what Montreal would honestly do? I legit think this. They would just they would literally not even leave their zone and just hopefully go to overtime and try to win a game 1-0.
Yep. And they would win some games like that because they're fluky and lucky and their goalie's awesome.
And they have the best goalie of our generation.
Yeah.
A brick wall.
Which let's give him credit. He was awesome. He really was. And a lot of people doubted him before the series, but he stole the series, man. He was their best player. He is the first player in NHL history to make double-digit, like he's an over $10 million player, AAV, to win a round. No other player's done it, which is crazy.
And like, credit to their defense. I'll give Montreal's defense all the credit in the world. And I was one of the people that our Hab correspondent, we banged on him. We said that was such a bad deal. That turned out to be a really good deal for the Habs, because PK Subban has just he doesn't know how to skate anymore. And even like Shea Weber still looks good out there. Like, credit to him. That's the one thing. Montreal defense and goaltending, they got it in spades. Good for them.
Can I also say what an underrated signing Joel Edmondson was? I thought he had a really good series. Yeah. He actually played really well. And my guy, I don't know if you guys remembered, but I said the one guy the Leafs should have signed that I was kind of pissed at the ball teams to go to, Corey Perry. That's the type of guy where you wish Simmons would have been for the, to that effect. Corey Perry, maybe not being the best forward, but he had he was noticeable in the series. He
took out the captain. He was a shit disturber,
He took
out the captain 10 minutes in. It was an accident, but hey, he did it and it happened.
Does it not bug you that Simmons didn't fight? Who was ragdolling Matthews?
Sherrod, yeah.
Does it not bother you that that's what Simmons is there for?
Of course. Guys, I've been saying that. And Joe, I wasn't alluding to they lost because of Simmons, but he had one job. He had one job. And it's just like
I was very upset by that. And I thought, especially like game 2, when the game was out of reach and it was like 5-1, he should have went to Sherrod right then and there, because he's the reason JT got hurt. He went headhunting though that first period, and he need JT, spun him around, and then you know what happened. Yep. So it is what it is. I would actually consider bringing Simmons back, because I think he could still play a little bit on that fourth line, and he's still tough. So I think you do need a guy like that. But yeah, I would have liked him to take care of him a little bit more. Yep. All right, let's bring it back on the rails, back to the Leafs.
Yeah, I ran hard on the Habs there.
No, I'm gonna get. I loved it.
Get some backlash on that one. I still love Montreal. It's still a great city. F1. I gotta. I may not be allowed there.
So, before we head off into the summer and not have to think about this team, are there any lasting words? Like, my lasting thought, I'm not going to go into a rant or anything. I don't know how anybody, myself included, can sit through an 82-game regular season and watch all 82 games like I usually do. Like, for what? What the hell is the point of that? Why waste my time? Because all that matters is the playoffs, and all that happens to this team is when the playoffs come, they fold like a cheap tent. So I think I'll watch on Saturday nights. I love Saturday night hockey, put the feet up with a cold one, but that's it. I mean, I'm sick and tired of watching this team every night look decent in the regular season and then watch that in the playoffs every single year. It's like the movie Blow. I love the movie Blow at the beginning. Johnny Depp's character, he meets Pablo Escobar. It's great. He's riding the high. And then the last hour of the movie is the downfall. I stopped the movie at that part. I don't even want to watch the ending. It's like watching that movie over and over again and hoping for a different ending, and it's never going to happen.
Yeah, you do. It's very true. That's a good point. As a Leaf fan, if you're a Leaf fan, the only thing you look to, and I'm not comparing these teams at all, because trust me, these two teams don't compare, but the 2019 Tampa Bay Lightning that basically killed themselves to like almost break the record for most points in a season, and then they lost in the first round of Columbus. The next year was just that they went through the motions. It was just like let's just get to the playoffs. That's what the Leafs have to do, because the regular season is going to mean nothing.
The problem
literally
with that
nothing.
Thinking, though, Bobby, is that the regular season in their division does matter, because they need home ice advantage if they're going to play Tampa or Boston.
I don't think they're going to get it. Like, we don't forget that they finished first because of points, or because of the division. Like, they got so many points feasting on. So they're going to go back to the third place team in that division. Maybe, they might have to fight Florida for fourth.
Yeah.
So,
all right.
Okay. Go ahead, Frank.
Yeah. For me, just a couple things. First off, my initial feeling right now is, to actually fight the urge to do something too drastic. There's a lot of risk in doing something that you're hopefully not gonna regret. Again, I made the stance that I don't know if you win a Marner trade right now at his lowest point, right? If it's a can't miss deal, yeah, obviously, but like, what is that out there right now? Is it Seth Jones? Is it Eichel? It's just I don't think it's there right now, and I think we're just acting on emotion. Like, yeah, Marner's gonna get crushed. He's getting crushed. He's getting destroyed out right now, but I think they just need to let the dust settle. I think if they trade Marner, if it's going to trade Marner, you're going to be looking. I think that you're probably going to be looking for that same player for the next 20 years. So
he's going to go win a cup somewhere else, like Kessel.
It's quite possible.
And Bozak and
I'm not his biggest fan. I'm not his biggest fan, but it's got to make the most sense, not just to do it. And if I'm Dubas, am I going to put my job on the line to go to bat for Marner? Like, that's something that he's really got to, look at and understand. It's just, there's just so much risk in doing something that you're just going to regret. Kind of like marriage. I'm kidding.
But Frank, if he runs back the same core and doesn't trade,
exactly, it's
you're
quite
putting your stamp on that. I still believe in this team, and then you're putting yourself out there still, because you might be on the chopping block for not changing something, for expecting a different result.
You're right. But that's that's why they paid Dubas the money to be a GM, right? Like, what stance is he going to take? All I'm saying is, don't make the trade tomorrow. Like, let the dust settle and understand exactly which way you're going to go. Like, we mentioned there's expansion coming up. There's a draft where they only have 3 picks. If he's your best trade chip, you better make sure that coming back, you're going to fill a lot of holes. A 1-for-1 for Seth Jones, like everybody's saying, is not. It'd be good, but it's not the trade
I would not
make,
do that
right?
deal.
No, I'm just saying I'm just
Really?
out there.
Yes. They allowed 14 goals in 7 games. Defense is not this team's problem. They can't score when there's no space out there. You got to get more offensive talent in the bottom 6 to help out those guys up top.
But what you don't do is you trade Marner for bottom 6 help.
I don't do that either, Frankie.
No,
but
I'm just saying.
I'm saying if I'm trading him for other offensive players who can maybe fill out the top 6 better.
Yeah, no, I get that. And I also, what you're probably doing is you're looking at the trade that Nashville made with Columbus. Is it Jones for Johansson? Is there a guy out there that looking for a change of scenery, like in that same stratosphere as Marner, that could be that deal?
Quinn Hughes. You're right, Bobby.
Could it be
Eichel? Could it be Eichel? That is guys. I know it's a stretch. I'm not saying
Buffalo ain't gonna do that.
I know, but I'm just listen, Rob. Sometimes when you get the best deal, it might be
a request a trade. Right? That I don't see any other team offering up a Mitch Marner.
Thank you. That was going to be my point
for Jack Eichel. So
I disagree.
Anyways,
I don't.
That's another discussion for another time. But lastly, the last thing I want to say is it was a good story, but I don't want this team or this city, this organization, to now be known as the Del Boca Vista of the NHL, where guys come to go retire in the twilight of their careers, and we'll be in the shuffleboard court. We're going to be all over the Frank Costanza. The story was nice. It was a nice hallmark moment, but like the rah-rah hometown boys of Thornton and Simmons, it just didn't work. Right idea, wrong players. So make the right acquisition now instead of, looking for the sympathy card. So that's it for me.
I think my last point would be the opposite of Frank. You have to move Marner. I don't think you can run this team back. And again, you don't lose the deal. Like, you don't trade him for 20 cents on the dollar. But if you get 70, 80 cents, you almost have to debate. You can't send the message to your fan base. The fan base is furious. I don't think you come back from this. This loss might not go away. And I think you have to move. Somebody's head's got to roll, and it's not going to be Shanny. It's not going to be Dubas. It could be Keefe. Maybe you say Keefe maybe he's the scapegoat, but you got to have a scapegoat. You got to put somebody out there, and it can't be, a middling guy. It's got to be a big boy.
It ain't going to be Keefe because that's Doobie's boy, right? So he already got his coach firing and coach hiring. I don't think he gets another one.
Then I'm sorry. It's got to be Marner. Someone's got to roll.
Trading Marner, but it's got to be a really good deal. Like, he had a terrible playoff, but he's still in the top 5 in the league in points. Yeah. He's still on pace for 100 points.
That's not an easy deal to make, guys.
Right?
Yeah.
I will say this about his contract, though.
Yes.
After July 1st, he's paid a big bonus. After that, basically a team would have to pay him $6.5 a year in real money. His AAV stays the same, but his real money $6.5. So if you're looking at a team who wants to get over the cap floor, doesn't want to spend that much money, that's very, very enticing for a team like that. Ottawa, Arizona, those teams.
What about a team like Carolina that doesn't want to spend money? Like they've got prospects. I think Columbus makes the most sense. I trade him for Seth Jones. I do. I know Joe, you can never have enough good defense. You're seeing it in the playoffs. You can never have enough good defensemen.
What about Laine? Not up straight up. I'm just saying. What if Laine is
I wouldn't either. Marner's better.
And there you go. See, and that's the thing. When you start going player to player, you're going to say Marner's better. But Marner's better. Right? There's not many guys that he is not better than. It is tough.
Move.
Do you know what would be terrifying? Be terrifying is having Matthews on one side of a power play and Laine on the other. That would be terrifying for any PK unit or goaltender.
I get the urge to want to trade him. Last night I couldn't stand the sight of him. I wanted him out of town yesterday. But he's still a very good player. Yes, he hasn't shown up in the playoffs, but maybe he learns that, hopefully. It's a really tough deal to make. I can't stand the spoiled brat. I can't stand what he did with the contract. All that stuff plays into it. If it's true that he won't change his position on the power play, like that makes me sick.
Yeah.
But again, I'm willing to move him, but it better be a damn good deal.
How many strikes do you need with this guy? Like at some point, it's like, okay, you know what? I've had and he was the one that got Babcock fired. Fairly or unfairly, he was the guy. Like he was the one that.
Yeah, I'm already on strike 3. It's contract, it's Columbus effort, and it's the Habs series effort. It's 3 strikes for me.
And there's a great saying in sports. It's called pressure creates diamonds, but it also bursts pipes. And this guy, he's just fighting it here, man. It's almost even best for him, because if he's making this cap hit, it's going to happen every year. He's going to force everything. You could see him forcing it. It's honestly, I think it's best for both sides. But again, you don't lose that deal.
I will tell you though, whenever this, I don't know if they've announced it yet, when this presser, whether it's this week or next week.
They haven't announced it yet.
You're going to hear a lot of stuff, but I am curious to hear how Dubas talks about the core. He believes in the core, but he has come out and said things like, again, that crazy thing about, while I'm the GM, I'm not trading William Nylander. That's not like, that was a really odd thing to say.
Awful.
I am curious though how he comes out, because the question is going to come up about Marner. Someone's going to ask it, and I am curious on the response, whether it's we're flat out not trading him, or does he give the, well, listen, we got to go back and we got to evaluate everything. I'm going to be evaluated. Sheldon's going to be evaluated. You know what I mean? Like that type of answer. Because he's not coming out and saying we're going to trade Mitch Marner. But you kind of look for the underlying pieces in there and say, well, we got to evaluate everything. Because it's very easy to come out and say, no, we're keeping Mitch. Because he loves Mitch. I think we all understand that. He loves Marner. But he also knows that's the biggest mistake he made. And a lot of time trying to cover up your own mistake is a lot harder to do. So
I got to credit Tim and friends. I heard this today. Special players make special plays on special days. We need our special players to start doing that, right?
I'd love to give a shout out to, like, Sid Seixeiro was good, but Tim is showing how great he is.
He is
by himself. I am a huge fan now. He's doing a great job.
Anyways, boys, we're going to be back talking about all kinds of different sports takes. I'm actually looking forward to not talking about the Leafs. I'm pumped. We got Euro 2020. It's still called 2020, by the way. Yeah. That's coming up. We got some stuff coming out about that, so look out for that, as well as we're going to start talking more baseball. Football is, it's creeping around. It's exciting time. So, and of course, obviously, we're going to talk about the NHL playoffs continually. So keep a lookout for that.
And some wrestling. A little bit of wrestling.
Did you get any questions about Aaron Rodgers or retiring or anything, or did that
I skipped over that one.
Next pod I will explain.
Of course.
All
right, everybody. Thank you for joining in again with us, and thank you for joining us in all those lives after the games. And we appreciate the support and the follows, and we look forward to getting your feedback. So thanks, everyone. Take care. Have a great summer.
See you guys.